Hey everyone, Wanderbot here, and welcome to the TemTem Swarm Alpha Playtest that's going on for like a couple of days. And the developers were kind enough to give me access to it. So we're just going to dive right in, but it is effectively a Bullet Heaven spin-off of TemTem, the Monster Collection MMORPG, which I actually think is really cool. It's got a substantive unlock system and a ton of meta progression, and I've actually played roughly about 2 hours of this prior to this video. Which will actually be going up as a members only video. So if you do want to watch my true first impressions of this game, you know, go and check that out. Namely, I've got a ragweed allergy and I'm not feeling super good. And so my first like 2 hours, first 2 hours of this, you know, just didn't feel like I was doing my best. And also this game has a fairly hefty initial grind wall that you have to kind of overcome, and it actually makes the game a little bit less fun. I am going to say that right out the gate, that like you have to unlock the fun in the game. You have to get all the new characters, you have to unlock all the extra moves, you have to unlock all the evolutions, you have to unlock more, you know, meta progression and whatnot. Do you want to... Oh, wait, reduces fire rate. Oh, fire rate is... Okay, I will consider that. I'm probably going to get DC beam. No. Yeah, let's grab that. Because we actually potentially have synergies. Oh no, we haven't unlocked any for this character yet. We'll have to check him out on a different character after we've unlocked some things. But Stimpack is, our fire rate is slightly different from cooldown. Notice how like my attacks will do 1, 2. It's because I have 2 projectiles that fire off. The shorter the fire rate, the faster that they will trigger between shots. So if you have a really low fire rate, they're just going to go da-da-da-da-da really quick. I immediately switched to Darude Sandstorm. I don't think I could sustain it, especially not right now. The best thing I can do is just hopefully not, you know, accidentally snort on camera, because that'd be not great. I've done it a couple of times and I always feel bad when I'm having like a medical condition, but I have to record anyway. Because it's just kind of like, well, this isn't peak Wanderbot. I'm like, I don't think people really expect me to be like the picture of professionality at all times, but some part of me feels bad when I'm not. Both to the developers and just in general, because, you know, I want to show off games as best as I can. I want to be as entertaining as possible, and if I'm like logy or tired or sleepy or grumpy, it always gets to me a little bit. Okay, has a POI popped up yet? No. So if you notice, I'm mostly just kind of hanging out in this central location. This actually does have a large substantive world to explore, but I don't want to do it yet because there's not really much reason to explore initially. It's not like Death Must Die where you actually have a bunch of those like little shrines to go find that will give you permanent power-ups. This one has random events that pop up, but I have to wait for them to actually show, which I think is actually cool. I like the fact that there is this big world to explore. Let's go for a holster. It increases the amount of projectiles we have by 1. The other reason why, I mean, it doesn't actually apply to the crystal shot, which is a little unfortunate but understandable. But it does apply to my 2 lightning abilities, and it's worth it. Alright, and there's our first event pop-up. I'm going to be kind of feedbacky as we go along, just because I have a number of observations and I want the devs to potentially hear them, because I know they're going to be listening. I wish the events popped up really quick. Like, I said this in a different video for a different Bullet Heaven, but in my opinion, if you're gonna have these event systems, just have them pop up. As soon as you complete one, there's another one up and ready to go, probably. They're not that good. Wow, and now I have 2. Like, the rewards from the events aren't amazing or game-changing, which I actually think is a bit of an issue, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But having that, like, awkward initial wait of just like, you know, there's no reason for me to go anywhere or do anything because I have no events to go to. So I'm just going to run in a circle and get experience, which is fine. But after you've done like 1 or 2 runs, you might as well just have players just have access to everything. I forgot I had an ultimate ability for a hot second there. I got to remember to use it because there's an achievement for using 15 ults in a single run. And I ain't doing it. Unfortunately, it takes a while to charge them. At least currently. I think some of the characters may charge theirs a bit faster. Other thing, I like this big explorable world, and it's very pretty. I actually wish it matched a little bit more of the TemTem world. They're kind of just these big open environments, and it'd be kind of neat if there's a little bit of verticality at the very least. I remember TemTem had some level of that, and it looked quite nice. And now I've got hiccups, so that's not great. It's fine. Okay, stay in the circle, start the event. Ouch. I wish that there was kind of like a, oh, you know, you are... Oh, that could have gone badly. I mean, it did go badly. I lost like half my health there just trying to trigger the event. I'm not sure about the stand in the circle to trigger the event, considering how many enemies are coming after me at all times. It feels like a just guaranteed way for players to take damage, and there's no safe way to clear enough monsters. Let's see, fire rate. We could go for the extra just 10 damage, but let's max out my abilities as fast as possible. Let's see, extra projectiles, even more crit damage. I mean, yeah, I might as well max that one out since it's closest to being maxed out. And I think it has a better AoE. Ow. Alright, I might as well use my lightning ability too. I guess that's one way to trigger an event, which, speaking of, I should probably start heading for the next one. So duration only affects the crystals. We could go for movement speed if I want to get around. Let's do it. Now, do I have any synergies? Something plus bandolier triggers an evolution, but I don't know what that is. Also, walking through a barrel or a box or whatever, it makes it drop its contents, but you don't actually pick it up. You should pick it up. Unfortunately, the pickup radius doesn't trigger until the object has hit the ground, and unfortunately that means I have to double back for these things, and that feels odd. There's a beach. But the verticality is mostly just from the perspective of being able to potentially skunk units a little bit. Wow, I killed him off camera. You know, just being able to like double back over a bridge or like do a loop where they have trouble following me. Purely from the perspective of it would make my life a lot easier just avoiding large hordes. And in that note, you could potentially have even more hordes if you had some levels, some like means of avoiding them. You know, with using the terrain to your advantage. Right now, we've just got some rocks, and they're more of an impediment to me than otherwise. Other thing I was going to say is, the TemTem all kind of approach you at largely the same pace and the same patterns. I would actually love to see an amount of the TemTem have unique movement patterns and like approach vectors, so that you're not just constantly being swarmed by just a variety of functionally the exact same creature endlessly. You know, there's, apart from a little bit of like durability and whatnot, there's no real difference between any of the monsters you see on the screen right now. Yeah, some have a little bit more HP, some might do a little bit more damage, but they all move the same speed and they all do the exact same. Well, they move in the exact same ways, and so like having a couple that try and like stop you or slow you down, or specifically, you know, maybe if there's some big monsters that aren't very good at chasing you, but they're very good at getting in your way, so you either have to kill them quickly or go another direction. There's a lot of options there. Do we want to get the fort of it? No, I'm probably just gonna keep upgrading my attack moves first. We might only have access to 3 attack moves here. I noticed that was a bit of a problem with some of the characters. Ow. It's not a huge issue, but it means that you have to unlock, you actually have to do runs before you can even be at potentially full power. But we also don't have any of the evolutions unlocked either, so there's that too. We have another event. Well, this one popped up right next to us, so I guess I might as well head for it. Even if I take a little bit of damage getting over to it. Grab some experience as we do. The maps are also weirdly huge. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but there's a lot of traversal to be done just to get from one event zone to the next. Oh, this is... Oh, I see. So there is actually an indicator as to, like... There we go. kind of. Be here for 12 seconds. I might actually just get cooked. I might be able to pull it off, but this hurts. Okay, got it. Get crystal spikes and we get a chest. Peach, invulnerability, and some Pansons. Not even an upgrade. So, okay. Other bit of feedback, I really don't like the chests in this. I think they're really boring. They often only give temporary boosts at best, and that's not very exciting. Temporary boosts at worst, and at best they give like a couple of levels to an ability I already have. The problem I have with that is kind of multiple fold. It means they're not very exciting because to some degree, it's just maybe better to sit around fighting monsters than to open those chests because the rewards, they just don't match. But I also find that chests that just give you, you know, level ups for your pre-existing abilities, it's boring because once again, you can just level up to get those. It means that finding a chest isn't exciting because there's nothing to it. I guess eventually they will offer evolutions, which I think is supposed to be what they're for, but I don't have evolutions yet, so I'm literally missing one of the main reasons why you'd want to pick up chests. But even as part of that, yeah, we want to grab as much currency as we can. The meta progression system gets expensive. And achievements kind of offset that a little bit, but when the achievements are kind of coming in slowly, it is a little tougher. Alright, let's get back to this kind of big swarm here. But I actually wish the chest gave other more impactful things. And this is something I'm going to keep alluding to bits of feedback I want to talk about. But I wish the chest actually gave, like, relics. So if you've ever played Slay the Spire, relics are passive abilities that just modify how you play. And they're permanent, and they don't take up any space. They don't affect your... Well, sometimes they affect your cards, but rarely. But you can have as many of them as you want, as many as you can get. And it's mostly just a question of, like, you know, which upgrades do you have and which are you kind of pursuing. So, like, Ice Cream in Slay the Spire lets you carry energy over from one turn to the next, which is really strong. Because if you have, like, a dud round or a safe round, you can kind of bank it and hope that your next rounds, you're going to be able to really pop off and do a bunch of damage. Let's see. Do we want to grab Lunchbox? No. Not overwhelmingly. I could. Yeah, we still don't have any synergies at the moment. I'm trying to figure out which are what. But I haven't gotten lucky with that. But so if this had some level of relic business or even like small randomized power-ups that you could slot into your abilities, and you could find those primarily through treasure chests, that would be huge. Purely from the perspective of like just making the game a little bit more varied, but then also making treasure chests feel much more impactful and fun. Let's go for this. The other reason I bring up that kind of like small randomized upgrades is most abilities have a max level of about 5 in this game. And I guess it hasn't shown up on this character yet. But so most abilities have a max level of about 5. Some go up to like 5, 6, or 7 or something like that. Maybe like the water upgrade, we'll see in a little while, goes up past that to like even potentially 10. I haven't checked. The problem with that to some degree is like in TemTem and all other Monster Collection games, your monsters can learn new moves to replace old moves, which I initially hated, and I mean, it's going to happen next time we level up, and you'll see exactly what I mean. But I initially hated the idea of, like, grabbing upgrades. And, okay, here we go. So, if I grab multivitamin gummies, I have to replace Stimpack, Holster, Turbo Boots, or Volgon Scale. Luckily, I can choose not to do so, and that's a really nice thing. So, like, I originally hated this, because normally when you fill out your entire loadout in any other bullet heaven, That's it. No other upgrades show up. It just says like, all right, you're capped. There's nothing else in the pool until you've maxed these out, and then after that you just get either free like healing or money. And that, I think that works, but I actually do like the ability to replace these things. Sort of. I think it adds the potential for a cool mechanic that is not in the game, but I would love to see. So we can increase our speed, we can decrease our fire rate, which I still think is bad. So I think I'm actually going to get rid of the stim pack. No, do we? No. I'm actually going to get these up to max level. There are achievements tied to getting everything up to level 5. And so I should focus on that, especially because we're currently rocking this run quite well and don't really need to go for even more damage. Oh, I can capture TemTem. Defend the egg. So this will get me another TemTem, assuming it survives. I mean, only 6 more seconds and this is above half health, so I think we're fine. I just don't want to take too much damage here. Alright. So we get an egg for, I don't actually know which one this is going to be. A Tepig. Cute. I have the plush for that, actually. Let's see. Divine Inspiration makes, oh, not Tepig. Sorry. That's Pokemon. Piggypeck. Brain. Makes Piggypeck invulnerable, increases HP recovery ×2. Wind Blast that slightly pushes enemies away. Gains health recovery every 15 levels. Which actually is not that much. The max level is roughly about 30 in this game. I don't know if they're planning on raising that or something. I kind of hope they do. Like a higher overall cap on this game probably would not be remiss. I do like the shorter runs though, but it feels like you could level up 2 or 3 times faster and just make the monsters that much more dangerous and spooky to compensate. But that might just be a me thing. But yeah, so you can replace your moves, or like nothing is ever removed from the pool, and you can replace your moves, which I think is a bad feel, but has the potential for you getting rid of moves and somehow using those like lost levels as an upgrade system. So for example, if I replace a level 5 power, it would be really cool if for every level that I've lost as a result, you know, all 5 of those levels, I get like a small randomized chip that can be slotted into either my TemTem itself or into my other moves and abilities. Specifically, I'm thinking of, Battle Shapers has this mechanic actually. You can strip the randomized power-ups from other guns and use them on your gun slot, so you can kind of keep them with you and build a build around that. And that's actually really cool, and I like that. I feel like that would work really well here, so you're actually incentivized to replace your power-ups. You know, oh, you start with Scratch. It sucks. You don't really want to stick with it as a move. You want to replace it with Hydro Pump. Okay, so you've replaced Scratch. But now, all of those levels that you've lost, you know, the levels that you invested over the course of a run, because the level cap is kind of low, or not level cap, but like maximum level over the course of a run is kind of low. You're not going to be able to, you know, really get that new move up to level 5 to compensate. Yeah, here's some small stat boosts that are actually kind of meaningful. And they could even be randomized in the same way, you know, common, uncommon, epic, rare, so on and so forth, where it's just like, hey, this one just gives you an extra projectile. This one gives you a little bit of lifesteal. This one gives you faster fire rate. This one makes your projectiles ricochet. This one adds poison. Wow, get wrecked. I don't even know what's hitting it. Probably just the lightning bolts. This boss is toast. That was fast. Nice and easy. What do we unlock? So, Sparking Bullet, Piggypeck, DC Beam, Inicky Trait Gain. I don't even know what that is. Attack Speed, Electric Damage, Electric Storm Duration, a couple of Synergies, but we still have to unlock them. Plasma Ball, which is new, it's a new passive. And then Pool Technique, Tesla Prison. So we have another move if we want to do another run with that guy, which I might. But I think for now, we did just get Piggypeck. But I think I might actually go back to one of my pre-existing monsters and give them a shot. So, unfortunately, this is one of the other downsides of this game. If you notice, I just reset my entire talent tree. That's because currency invested into each of these monsters is, how would I put it? So I just went from 15,000 down to about 12,000. If we look at Iniki, there's nothing invested and we're down to 12,000, which means I'm actually incentivized to reset my tree every single time. Let's see, where is it? Oh, there it is. I'm incentivized to reset my my tree every single time I want to switch monsters, just because I don't have enough currency to split between all of them. It's not that big of a deal, but it's a little odd that I have to do this. Just have the currency be localized to each creature. So, you know, for Ori, he is 6,775 out of 15,000. And then Platypet, since I have nothing invested, would just be 15,000 out of 15,000. Same thing with Iniki and so on and so forth. Having to redo my talent tree every single time I do this is just odd. There's no real reason for it beyond just like, I think the developers just weren't even thinking about players doing this. Increases speed during their ult. That's okay. I think I mostly want to just go for passive damage. So cooldown of techniques by... Ooh, that is good. Yeah, let's just go for that. So that's crit damage, damage of range class techniques. And we're just going to scale this guy's damage up a bunch. And then let's go for some pickup radius. We're just going to go for projectile storm. Hope it goes well for me. I guess I could have also gotten the Pantone multiplier, but we'll get that later. Alright, so we're going to do solo, Ori, and let's go to Denise, the other level I have unlocked. I don't know if there's any other levels available in the playtest at the moment. It might just be these two. Who knows? But anyway, there's plenty of TemTem to play with and a lot of abilities. So one thing you might notice immediately is that my ability set is completely different. That's because when you pick your TemTem, it'll say like what two types that they have available. So Ori has access to data and fire, and so those are the only two moves that will show up in their pool, which is great actually, and gets around my one worry with the whole like you can replace your abilities thing. I was terrified that the pool was going to get so bloated with new abilities that, ooh, turbo attack, 3 projectiles fall from the sky, crush enemies. Sure, that's fun. I actually really like that ability. But I was worried that my pool would get so absolutely gem-packed with new abilities and stuff that I'd constantly be asked, like, hey, do you want to replace your abilities? It's like, no, I want to level them up. Stop giving me trash. But at least that currently isn't the way. I have a synergy, but I don't know what its pairing is. So we might not actually get the synergies I'm looking for. It's fine. Or we might not get any synergies in this video. Or I might have to actually stop and go look some things up, because I'd like to get the correct synergies so we can actually see an evolution in this video. But I've played this game for over 2 hours now, and I haven't seen a single one. Alright, other thing I gotta remember, there's an achievement for dashing a bunch of times, and I should invest into that. Let's go area and reduce the cooldown. I actually really like the big clunky... the big clunky projectiles from the sky. They feel good to me. I almost kind of wish they looked like, oh, what are they called? Rods from God? Rods of God? The tungsten spikes. Oh, gear. This is the... Okay, so gear. Increases the number of enemies projectiles pierce before disappearing. So that is the synergy to get an evolution. I'll probably replace it after the fact, just because it only applies to literally that one attack. But we are actually going to see an evolution here. I'm so glad that that actually just outright shows me. And we don't have any events popping up. That's a nice bit of quality of life. Okay, let's just keep doing the dashes. Okay, number of enemies. I don't actually know how the synergy works exactly. Like, do both abilities have to be maxed out? Does only the active ability have to be maxed out? I do not know. Can I get through here? No. That's unfortunate for me. Yeah, I want to dash 15 times, and I want to use my ult 15 times. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it off over the course of this video, but... Or, not this video, this run. But I'm going to try anyway. At least for the dash 15 times, that seems reasonable. Ult charges a little slow. There we go. And then just break the TemTem nest. I don't know if I get eggs from this. I think eggs are more gained from achievements rather than the nests. Nah, it just looks like a couple of magnets. Okay. Fire tornado. Duration of techniques. That's okay. But yeah, none of these give me an evolution yet, so I'm just gonna not. Or, I'm not gonna pay attention to the passives. I'm gonna try and just finish off my data bullet so I can see what the evolved version of it is and how much of a difference that makes. So, I guess the big issue that I am running into with this, mostly boils down to a lack of variation. These are the only 4 moves available to Ori at the moment. I'm sure that's going to change as the game evolves and improves. The chances are there's going to be all sorts of extra moves that are unlockable to the point where at least every monster has a pool of 8 to 16 or something like that. Which is fine. But my big issue with that is that it becomes more of a question of like, okay, do I want to mix the fire tornado with the data bullets? But all of the abilities scale linearly and max out at 5. There's no variance. What I'm looking for is possibly AoE. The extra damage ain't bad. But I think I'd rather just improve my abilities. Since I can't clear out the pool here, there's no reason for me to be like, oh, let's max it or fill out all my slots early. It's like, nah, it's just a 5% damage upgrade, and I don't know if there's... if, like, having an upgrade increases its prevalence in your pool or not. I haven't done any testing, and I don't seem... I haven't really seen anything that would imply that that's the case. I'm also really trying to get this data bullet up to max level before... let's see. Before we find another treasure chest. Hopefully. It should be doable. But yeah, so since all of the abilities scale linearly, there's no variation in them. You know, maybe there's a little bit like, oh, you know, this round I found the bandolier, so I get even more projectiles. Like, that's cool, and that instantly makes it a little bit more interesting, but not hugely so. But every single run that I pick Fire Tornado is pretty much going to... that Fire Tornado is going to behave in the exact same manner every single time. I'm just going to hug the bird and see if I can kill it quick. There it is. Please give me the evolution. Nope. It says right bumper plus. So I'm not actually sure how synergies work. I don't know if they combine together, or if it's just like these two work well together, at which point it's nothing. We can also evolve. Ah, there's also the motherboard gear, which improves all of my digital damage. We'll leave that for... I'm actually going to grab the extra projectiles. We'll put off evolving for a level, if we can. I actually think this guy only has 1 evolution. Some of them go up to... I guess the previous guy only went up 1 as well. Platypet, one of the other TemTem you can play as, evolves twice. I think once you have something, it is more likely to show up. But yeah, we want the bandolier because that makes it that makes a lot of my abilities just pop off constantly. Grab these. Let's see. Holster, yeah. Oh, or we can get the synergy upgrade. Let's get that now. So it looks like it just fires so much more. Doesn't get rid of anything in the pool or anything like that. And gosh, it just burns? It is just shredding things. I do wonder if I can replace the drill but we might also not get the opportunity to do so. Okay, do we want to... I do actually want thermal paste as well. Let's increase our projectile numbers even further. Alright, keep dashing, keep grabbing stuff. But I wish this game had some level of an overclock system. I like the evolution, it feels good and impactful. It does seem to be kind of just like a linear scale on the ability. It's just more projectiles at a faster rate, which is still absurdly powerful, but there's no variance in it. It's the evolution of that is always going to look exactly that way, and that's fine. I think the big issue that I mostly boil down to with that is the less variance there is with how abilities work in these games, the less replayable they are. It's fun to like go through the runs, and especially with multiplayer, which I think is going to really buoy this game. That, and I think people love, you know, small scale monster collection games. And so kind of having a monster collection themed bullet heaven is going to be a lot of fun. But without the kind of variations of upgrading your moves in weird and different ways, or like having a bunch of branching paths, you'll only ever want to do maybe about like 5 or 6 runs with each monster before you're kind of like, yeah, I've kind of been there and done that with Ori, and like I might like him, but it's still kind of the same lineup for forever, with minimal variance and almost nothing you can do to swap out except for like, you know, do I pick the fire tornado today, or do I go for pure projectile machine gun? And those are fun, but if every single pure projectile machine gun run looks the same because you only have so many options to create that build, then there's only one pure projectile run that you can do, and anything after... Anything... How would I put it? Any pure projectile run, or any run of the exact same build, is just an iteration of what came before. And, like, I recognize that there's only so much build variety that is possible in these games. But the more variety that is possible, the less static they feel, the more replayable, and the more fun they are to come back to. And the more fun they are to do, like, successive runs with. Because you kind of have that feeling of experimentation, you know, like... Hey, am I going to try this today? Or, who knows, maybe I'll get some, like, rare upgrades. Nova Drift is on my mind at the moment. Nova Drift and, like, Nova Drift, Death Must Die, and, like, Deep Rock Galactic Survivor are, like, the 3 that I go back to for examples of how to specifically use this formula well. And I'm not saying, like, you know, copy their notes, because I think that's actually a mistake in and of its way. It's mostly just that those 3 games have specifically solved the build variance replayability issue in a variety of interesting fashions. So, like, Death Must Die. Easiest example I can think of right off the top of my head. It's got a bunch of things going for it in terms of replayability. 1, you can only have 3 god boons at a 3 god boon types at a time. So you can have, like, fire, ice, and time, or death, war, and lightning. I don't know what average crystals... Oh, they're just worth a ton of money. Nice. I guess, oh, because all of my abilities are currently maxed out, there's nothing for the chest to give me. That's funny. So we just got a stupid amount of cash. I like that. And that also gets me an achievement because I had one for get over 1,000 Pan Suns in a single run. But so Death Must Die, you are limited to 3 types of gods, but there's tons of boons within each of those legendary commons, or because you had a variety of god boon rarities. So you have common through effectively gray all the way up through red. Because I think it was like gray, green, blue, purple, red. And so there's some variation of like, yeah, do I want to... Let's go for the cooldown reduction. You know, do I want to go for the ability I want early, or do I want to hold out and hope that I will find like the rarer, more powerful version of it later? Or the rarer, more powerful version shows up finally, but there's a legendary that is possibly even better, but doesn't fit the build you're going for. And so there's some level of variation in there. And so while the abilities themselves, when you level them up, scale in a linear fashion like this one, there's such a variety of abilities that you're mixing into the setup that it doesn't matter that much. That, you know, no two runs are exactly the same, just due to the rarities and quantity of them. But then on top of that, you also have this world that you're constantly exploring, finding shrines that modify your stats permanently or temporarily in a variety of ways, and that feels quite good. Because it gives you, it just gives you a lot of fine-tuned control, because almost every single one of them offers a choice. Do you want extra AoE, or do you want, like, dash cooldown? You know, well, AoE doesn't help me much, so I'll go for the dash cooldown. Or, oh boy, I'm really going for an AoE build. This is perfect. It's even bigger now. Haha, I can now hit the whole screen. And so, like, right now, I've got a little bit of that with I am now just barfing projectiles at a high rate, purely because of this one evolved ability. And I think that's fine and cool, but it's always going to be the exact same level of output and damage, potentially. You know, maybe I can vary it a little bit with the correct upgrades, you know, decrease the cooldown speed a little bit more, or get another extra projectile with a bandolier, stuff like that. Well, those are good and it works, but also with the evolution system, you kind of are locked in, because now if I want to upgrade my data bullet, every single time I'm going to have that bandolier, which means to some degree I'm specifically incentivized to always pick abilities that synergize with the drill, you know, so projectiles that have pierce, because otherwise I'm wasting that passive purely for one singular evolution, which inherently pigeonholes me yet further into one singular build. You know, it's not like I can experiment with the, you know, what is the data bullet slash bandolier synergy? That doesn't exist. So if I want that synergy, I have to have the drill. It's fine. It's fine in this system, but it is one of those that you inherently, effectively, to have one of these upgrades, you lose another one of your slots just to carry its matching evolved item. And like, it makes sense from a build perspective, but it still cuts down on variance, because yeah, if I have this ability, then I have to have this passive. If I have to have this passive, well, I should probably pick other abilities that match that, so other projectiles that pierce. But of course, all of them also evolve, and so I need to pick up their evolution items. And so, you know, say Fire Tornado needs a match. Well, maybe not match, but you know, projectile B needs the fire rate booster to evolve. So now I have to have both the fire rate booster and the I have to have the fire rate booster and the drill and the data bullet and whatever projectile B is. And then projectiles C and D have the same thing, at which point I don't have a build, I just have a template that I have followed. Or I haven't created a build, I'm just following a template that is kind of set forth by the game. And yeah, you can deviate from that, but you're actively generally making your build worse to deviate, just so you can maybe have a bit of variety. So like, yeah, if you mix in the Fire Tornado, it benefits from the bandolier, but not the piercing. And it's fine without it, but you're still losing out on a little bit of that potential, like, upgrade. I have been forgetting to hit my evolution constantly here. And so, wow, watch me just completely melt this boss. I am too powerful. Hopefully there's higher difficulty levels. My first couple runs of this, I was slightly miserable. I used it 11 times. Please tell me I dashed at least 15 times. Turbo attack, I think. Dash distance and dash damage. I think we got it. Yes, I did dash enough times, so we've now unlocked that node permanently. There's also dash area. Deal damage. You can deal damage with dash. Increases the damage dealt by dash. Huh. All right. I might actually have to invest into that. But do we want to play Pick a Peck? Try something new? Let's try something new. I'm going to do 1 or 2 more runs. Just for the sake of variety. So increase in attack speed, area of techniques. Well, we always want the extra projectiles, and that's projectile pierce, which is great. I need 2 of these. I might as well unlock dash and then go for the dash damage. That is pricey. Dash distance and reduces dash cooldown. Oh, that's also pricey. I should leave that for a hot second. What is this one? Number of levels needed to increase the... What? The Pig-a-Peck trait. In minus what? What does that mean? The hell is the Pig-a-Peck trait? Okay, cooldown of techniques by 5%, excluding ultimate techniques. I should probably work on triggering my ult a bunch of times. Okay, boost my critical probability. Yeah. Just get that up. Okay, it's not perfect, and obviously there's a lot more that I need to invest into. But it's fine. Do we want to give them a bit of armor? Sure. That'll be good enough. I don't know about the trait system. Because I don't see anything about Pig-a-Peck trait. Obviously, we've got a bunch of these. Many of these are also locked and coming soon. Like, this is very much only part of a game. But that's fine. Do we want to go back to Seppaku? I think Denise is better just from a reward perspective. It is a little harder, but that's fine. But so this is mostly the reason why I'm kind of like not... Oh, do I fire my projectiles forward? That's good, bad? It means I can aim it. Well, we can get the key field. It's melee type. Is that air? I have no idea. But yeah, I might as well go for the damage field. Let's go for the Volgon scale. The heal over time is good, but if I do enough damage, it's not that important. Oh, right. I forgot. I should be using my dash offensively here. Increases attack area. Yeah, we want that. We want my aura to be big. I'm not actually sure if I'm going to be able to do dash damage here. Which is... I don't know if it's really that big of a deal. Okay, low attack damage. Oh, so we have a rock move. Let's see, it's ranged. It does benefit from the extra AoE, so sure. Looks like it's just kind of another AoE attack. Right, and this just increases my healing for a bit and some other things, so I guess I should get the regen ability. And yeah, we might have synergies with these moves. Nah, I can't kill the birds. They're in fact more dangerous to me. Attack area cooldown. So cooldown technique does not benefit my AoE, but it benefits the other stuff, which is good. I think I'm going to go for AoE size though, purely from the perspective of big aura, big blast, big everything. Let's see, we don't have an event up yet. Grab the cherries. Yeah. I mean, we're in a fine spot. Okay, so what was I talking about? I guess I was talking specifically about, like... what Death Must Die did, just in terms of giving you a lot of build options. So much of it comes down to micro choices. Micro and macro choices. Micro choices are whenever you get a shrine, unless it's one of the like really powerful rare ones, at which points that's, I would argue, more of like a macro choice. And, you know, maybe there's better game design language for this. I'm not, like, I have a concentration in game design, but that's it. Boomerang. Attacks a random enemy, returns the caster damage in his path. It does not benefit from AoE, but I'm going to grab it anyway, because we might not have enough moves for anything else. And there's an event. I might have to go kind of the long way around on this one. It's not the end of the world. But so, like, micro choices are just small choices that make big changes over time if you get enough of them. Macro choices are the big choices right off the bat, the big game-changing ones where you're like, oh, you know, this run I'm going to invest into area of effect abilities and scale up those area of effects, and you get something later on that's like, convert your pickup radius into area of effect, just like pure AoE distance. At which point it's just like, oh, cool. You know, I know exactly what this run is going to be. And now I can do even more stuff with it to make it extra fun and spicy. Let's see. Just keep going for the AoE for the time being. I don't really want to upgrade just my boomerang. And so I think this game suffers a little bit from it, that even the macro choices are kind of basic. It's just, which moves do you pick? And then after that, you're locked in. Like, once I've picked Boomerang, there are no more choices for Boomerang. It is just whether or not I level up Boomerang compared to another ability. At which point, I guess I would classify that as a micro choice, and again, there's probably better language for this than what I'm using. Clearly, I need to actually just, like, study some basic game design language. I don't actually need to know how to design games, I just need to know how to talk about them and communicate these ideas better. But yeah, there are no more choices for Boomerang beyond whether or not I level up Boomerang or some other ability. And right now, I don't really care to level up Boomerang. It's not a primary technique. It's not something I care deeply about. So it kind of becomes a non-choice. Because it's there because I needed another ability and I had no other choices. But for the most part, I'm actively just choosing against having anything to do with it. And that's not really like a choice, it's more of just kind of like following a preset path. Let's see. Let's cut through that. We don't have any other abilities. So, I guess one of the other examples of bullet heavens that I brought up, let's go Nova Drift. So Nova Drift has a lot of preset paths, but there's some level of like branching and variance. I guess kind of in the same way that I'm choosing to either do stuff with Boomerang or not do stuff with Boomerang, Nova Drift kind of does the same thing. Where specifically, you know, there's a bunch of these like small talent trees that have like a starting talent, 2 mid talents that you can invest in either or both. And then once you've got either of those tier 2 talents, then you can get the T3 talent. And that introduces a decent amount of variation because not all of those T2 talents are actually good. Especially for whatever your ability is. So you have to kind of pick and choose a smidge. Just in terms of like, hey, which of these abilities do I invest into? And, oof, taking a lot of damage. I should probably go find some more barrels to break. Which of these abilities do I invest into? Which fits my build? Which do I pick just so I can get that final upgrade? And, you know, you have 9 choices per level. Some are garbage. Some are great. Some are kind of so-so, but lead to better upgrades later. And so you're constantly being confronted with these choices of like, yeah, do I want to have, you know, I'm rolling a sniper build. Well, I could go for extra projectiles. Problem is that actively, oh, the AoE upgrade is Actually, the AoE upgrade is bigger. Or goes beyond level 10. I'm gonna go back to wanting to be able to convert maxed out abilities into chips. Getting stuff like the AoE upgrade purely so you can chipify it later and turn it into a whole bunch of stuff would be so cool. Just purely from the perspective of like, yeah, now I have 8 levels of this thing that I can turn into 8 chips. And my chances of getting like a rare one go up maybe the higher the level it is. Or not, I don't know. But so Nova Drift also has some level of like combinations. If you get these two passives together, you can get, you know, a big, what are they called? Effectively a big super upgrade that has its own like major game-changing effects. And so you're constantly being confronted with all of these choices in a way that gives you a lot of agency over what your build is. Oh, right, I was talking about, like, I'm going for a sniper build. Do I want extra projectiles? But if I do, it lowers my, the extra projectiles also lowers my shot velocity, which for the sniper reduces its damage by, like, a lot, actually. So the faster the shot is, the more damage it does. But those extra projectiles are worth it, maybe. And so you have to kind of constantly make those choices. Sure, I could have 10 sniper shots, but they're going to do minimal damage, and it's going to be hard to climb out of that hole. And so you have to very much, like, balance, you know, whether or not you go with X or Y upgrades. And thus, every decision kind of becomes a macro upgrade. I'm probably just going to max out Key Field. The last one I was going to bring up is Deep Rock Galactic Survivor, which I think actually kind of suffered from the same issue that this does a little bit, where everything felt like you were just on a preset path and there wasn't a whole lot of variation. But I was somewhat wrong about that, namely just because of how the game plays. Specifically, like, just digging and exploring the environment is so much more exciting in Deep Rock Galactic than I think any other bullet heaven I've played to date. Just because you have to like dig and mine and be very careful about how you explore, and you have a time limit, so you can't sit in your laurels. You have to be pushing as hard and fast as you can to get as much golden nitra as possible. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to shop for much between levels, and that's where the real, well, maybe not that's where the real power comes from, but you know, the more items you can buy between levels, the more powerful you are, just because each of those is the equivalent of leveling up once. And so that gets pretty strong. And so that in and of itself has kind of a time pressure. Here I've got this event down below, but there's no real time pressure for me to get to it. One, because I don't need to do it. The actual rewards that come from having it aren't that good. Also presents somewhat of an existential threat to me. Just because enemies are going to hurt me just trying to activate the dang thing, let alone whatever it actually has as a goal, which might hurt me yet further. Yeah, it's control zone, so this one's going to hurt. Luckily, I can lock enemies in place and go invincible, so I've got some options here. But the other thing Deep Rock Galactic did well, even though you're locked into 4 weapons, at every 6 levels, each of those weapons gets an overclock upgrade. Well, every level is varied, because every time you get an upgrade for those weapons, it levels the weapon up by 1, and every 6 levels gets you an overclock, which are a little bit more static of upgrades, but some of them do wildly different things, you know, adds fire to the attack, or makes the projectiles ricochet off of walls, or I'm trying to think of all the different variations, you know, adds extra beams, it combines all of your projectiles that you could potentially have, you know, in your clip, and just makes them into one bullet, so you fire one giant uber bullet kind of slowly. Yeah, let's go for the cooldown reduction. Oh, that's pretty good. And so as a result, you have a bunch of micro choices whenever you level up. Like, hey, do I want to give this gun some fire rate, or this gun some clip capacity, or this gun some reload speed, or this gun some damage, or so on and so forth. And then you have the big macro upgrades of like, yeah, I'm going to make my sniper rifle fire the biggest damn bullet possible. Or I'm going to have this sniper rifle be more like a machine gun with a ton of separate shots. And so all of those choices feel very impactful and interesting and exciting, because it's just like, yeah, my next run, I'm going to try this. Or for this other run, I'm going to try that. Or, man, I really should have picked that upgrade instead of this upgrade. Here, I don't have any of that. I'm just kind of going. Most of my weapons are carrying me as is, and some amount of that is difficulty curve. But I'm also going to argue just lack of variance as well. Because I have no survival... it's not that I have no survival pressure. There's nothing to experiment with here. The only thing I could possibly look for is just some extra evolutions. And we clearly do not have the evolutions tied to these passives, which is kind of stinky because, I mean, yeah, this character needs to unlock them first, but it also means that if I want to have the cooldown reduction perk, I'm going to have that preset action. It would be a lot of work, but it would be interesting if every passive and every active ability could synergize. But I recognize that would be an insane amount of work, and probably not actually be that interesting, because the abilities would be worse. It's like, I guess I was going to bring up, like, Pokemon fusions, you know, back in the day on that website that would just mush the two Pokemon sprites together, and it would just look kind of ghoulish, because... you know, it's not like it was an original piece of artwork. It was just somewhat cutting the notable parts of each sprite and mushing them together. So it would be like, put Odish's face on a Doduo. Like, not that exciting. Kind of horrifying, in fact. But it had its own, like, appeal. But to actually do unique sprites for every single Pokemon combination would take an insane amount of work. Which, yes, I recognize that there is a Pokemon fan game that is currently doing that, and that is really cool, and I do want to play that at some point. But, like, I recognize that would be difficult for a game like this, but even just having a couple extra evolutions so that, like, yeah, I want to have a super damage aura that actually benefits from the damage aura passive and synergize as well, so it covers, like, a ton of the screen. You know, being able to make that decision or have that option available to me it would go a long way in terms of, like, what build variety I'm working with. And who knows, this is still just a playtest. That might actually be something that happens. But I am not sure. But this still goes back to my thing about being able to turn old abilities into chips. That would solve the problem in and of itself. And it would kind of feel unique because nobody else would do that, maybe. And so, because it would give you a decent amount of variation on all of your abilities, and would also give you an incentive to replace them as well. So it's just like, yeah, you know, at this point the damage aura actually is good. I'm still going to use it. But Boomerang, I don't know. It's not really doing it for me. It goes out, hits one enemy, and then bounces back, and that feels kind of bad. I'd replace Boomerang in a heartbeat, especially if it gave me, you know, upgrade ships. And so, I don't know, that's what I've thought up. Obviously, any number of other options are entirely valid. It's not like everything has to be my way or the highway. And I should very much stress that, like, oh yeah, this is an issue. If you have, like, a fully maxed out build, the game will force you to replace one of your pre-existing abilities. So, you know, luckily I still have space in my lineup. But if I had, like, the Bandolier and the Drill, and then, like, two other passives, and all of my abilities were maxed out to completion, it would actually force me to get rid of the Bandolier, the Drill, or one of the two other passives. There's no way to say no. And so I'm like, hey, but if you could convert, you know, passive abilities into chips, Say if you have a complete build and you don't want to get rid of anything, you could take those new level up options and just be like, hey, yeah, turn this into a chip. I would like that level up option to potentially, or, you know, I'm not going to benefit from this. Ow. I'm not going to benefit from this by, like, adding it to my lineup, but if it gave me an upgrade chip, then I would love it. Anyway, we've unlocked Windblade, Recovery, Reanimation Kit, Divine Inspiration Knockback, Wind Damage, Pick-a-Peck Trait Gain. I do not know what Trait Gain does. So I'm quite curious to see what that looks like. And you can see all the different ways to unlock these. Still do not know, yeah, what the Trait Gain is. Unless it's those unlocks at the bottom. Boy, there's a lot of unlocks. I do not know. I guess let's take a look at Pick-a-Peck, because... So there's Health Recovery. Oh. It's that. It's the trait at the bottom. Okay. So gain 0.1 health recovery every 15 levels. So if we go back to, or actually no, I can just look at it from here. So if we go back to this would make it so it goes down to every 10 levels. And then this would increase the amount of HP recovered up to a 0.3. So 0.3 every 10 levels, which actually still is not that good because the max level is 30. But it is still kind of a nice means of handling upgrades. So let's reset this one. Let's go back to Platypet. Oh, but I should probably actually invest into things. So I'm actually going to go for an ultimate technique cooldown on this guy. Because there's an achievement for specifically using your ultimate technique 15 times, and I'm going to just make it so it does a bunch of damage. Go for the projectiles. Let's see, go for attack speed. Could go for projectile pierce. Oh, and that's just area of water techniques. So that's not as good as I would have liked it to be. That's okay. Just damage. I don't think we care too deeply about dash. I could invest into it, but I want to try other things. Okay, do we have traits on this one? No. So whatever the Platypet's trait is, we haven't unlocked the specific upgrade related to it. I guess I'll just... Oh, I see. I have to do 2 levels into this, so I can do this. This just gives us some native health regen, and that's just good. All right. It's Platypet, final run. It's a Bunku. It'll be nice and easy. So, I do, like, despite my my criticisms, I do actually really like this game. It looks gorgeous. The music is fun. The fact that it's got online multiplayer baked in right from the get-go is actually got a ton of potential. And the amount of just different unlocks is great. I think it mostly just boils down to, it's one of those that I feel like it could be so much better without, not without too much work, because obviously everything takes a lot of work. But it feels like there's a lot of potential packed away into this that could be unlocked with more layers of, I'm going to say in-game upgrades. Water cannon, powerful column of water that deals a lot of damage. Sick. But yeah, more in-game choices would actually be lovely in a lot of ways. Also, kind of feel like the talent tree needs maybe a bit of a revisit, just because the talent tree is so... there's so many shared elements between each of the TemTem. It's kind of weird. Is it weird? I don't know. I think the main issue is mostly that I have to reset my talent tree just to get my money back so I can play a different TemTem. Like, either give them some shared talents or just make the money instanced per creature. So it's like, hey, yeah, this you know, each and every one of them has, like, whatever the talent points. I mean, talent cache. And you don't have to reset every single time you want to play a different one, just to max out their traits. I'm like, yeah, I could specifically get enough currency that I don't need to do that anymore, but it's such a grind to get there. The other thing I would say is, having played 2 hours of this, actually, I mean, 3 now, I've seen exactly one synergy move, and some amount of that is my fault for going for a wider variety instead of, like, really pushing for new things. Hydro turbine, sure. Yeah, there's one more water move I can invest into as well. But, you know, I haven't been looking too hard for evolutions, and I could, like, hop on the Discord and see what people say, because I'm pretty sure somebody's already put a list together. I just don't want to do that. I like oh, right. I'm supposed to be using my ult here. Shoot. Yeah, we still cannot banish or reroll things either. Not that that's that big of a deal. But I'd like to get rid of that claw, because I'm not going to be using it. There's an event, finally. Not that they're particularly important. I guess they're kind of nice. They do give me a bunch of levels. I just wish that they gave me permanent upgrades, too. But yeah, I like where this game is going. It's an incredibly solid foundation for what is effectively an alpha. An alpha version, and, like, chances are it's a little bit further beyond that. It might be beta or nearing release, or it might come out later this year, I'm not sure. And the fact that they're having people playtest it with, like, no embargo on footage instantly means that they're confident about this product, and I can see why. Like, it's good. I just, you know, the selfish part of me is like, but it could be better. Do we want to go for the AoE size sonar? Sure. Unfortunately, none of these actually affect its, or none of these are an evolution, which is what I'm looking for. I'm honestly shocked that this is like the starter character. These are the abilities that I had from the start. I'm honestly shocked I haven't unlocked the synergies for them yet. Which means that they are few and far between, at least in the current version of the game, where you really have to work your way up to getting to that point. Anyway, let's grab, let's evolve. Platypet's cute. Its evolution is cute. It's got angry eyes, though, and I'm not sure how I feel about that one, though. Or at least less cute eyes. The final evolution is cool, though. Like, props, credit where credit is due. TemTem did a really good job from, like, an aesthetic perspective. I've played a lot of Pokemon successors and fan games and whatnot. TemTem is one of the only ones I think I've played that isn't just like, hey, this looks like Pokemon again. Like, what was it? I mean, there was, like, Pal World, and there was Koromon, and there's... I'm trying to think of some other good examples, but many of them just look like Pokemon all over again. And I can only begrudge that so much because, like, yeah, people love Pokemon, go figure. But they lose a lot of their, like, visual identity. They lose a lot of their visual identity, specifically by being too close to Pokemon. And that makes them less memorable. Unless they have something else going on that makes them more memorable. Oh, does my poison spray actually do poison? Maybe. Yeah, this wave is literally the starter ability, and I'm actually kind of baffled that I don't seem to have the evolution for it. It's fine. There's also, like, a completely different water move that I'd like to grab here, but ain't showing up. Let's see, hydro turbine, just even more water damage. Now, I'm probably just gonna keep trying to evolve, or not evolve, at least max out my pre-exist. Oh my gosh, those water beams ruin him. I'll take it. I would like to find a magnet at some point, but it's fine. Anyway, what else was I going to say? I don't know. It just feels like there's a lot of potential, and I could see this being a lot of fun, especially if you've got friends in tow, because you'd actually be able to have kind of a wider variety of abilities and potentially work together on builds. So having one character that's a little bit more focused on like single target or directed damage so they can specifically hunt bosses would probably make a massive difference. But again, I'll have to wait on that one to see. I think at the very least you'd have that level of like just playing with another person instantly makes replayability go up, even if the game itself doesn't have much to go off of. Just because, you know, it's kind of fun to experiment with that. And yeah, having an extra person means that you could kind of collude and work together. I wonder if there would be some level of like resource sharing or stuff like that. I do not know. But I guess to finish my spiel about like variants and upgrades and whatnot, I actually wrote like a big long blog post that I'll leave in the description below if I can remember to do so. Just talking about like, hey, here's a bunch of different bullet heaven upgrade systems and why they work and how they work and how to make them compelling. Because like there is so much that you can do with this formula. My biggest constant fear is that the developers who make these only played Vampire Survivors, and it kind of feels like that's the case here, that the devs played Vampire Survivors and said, hey, we can make that, somewhat just unaware that there are other games that exist in the exact same genre doing the exact same things. This problem is especially prevalent in the roguelike deck builder genre. So I've had a number of devs reach out to me being like, cover our roguelike deck builder, it does this thing. And I'm like, you mean the thing that Vault of the Void does? And, you know, I can't fault them for it. You know, it's not like game mechanics are owned by any one specific person or development studio or anything like that. But it's one of those where, like, if you're trying to make, you know, Slay the Spire with a twist, and your twist is the twist that somebody else twisted earlier, that's not a twist anymore, that's just retreading old ground. Unless you mix it with more twists and more interesting things, it just ends up having no identity. So, you know, I brought up Death Must Die earlier. That game specifically, yeah, very much has the Hades God boons, but it also mixes it with the Diablo equipment system, which is the other thing I'd forgotten to mention in terms of its like replayability and macro and micro decisions of like, that equipment system is massive in terms of giving you just so much variance and so many different builds that you can kind of work towards, and so many minor changes that can make big impacts. And so by mixing a Diablo equipment system with Hades boons and then Vampire Survivor style gameplay, you suddenly have a very unique feeling game just mixed together right there. And it feels great. There we go. This is much easier. My original video on this, I was struggling. It took me an hour to like really get to the point where I could win a run, and now I'm just cooking. But that is kind of one of the downsides of meta progression. Somebody had specifically, like, I had talked dismissively of meta progression. Somebody had been like, you know, hey, it's here for those of us that aren't very good at these games and is like a soft difficulty curve. I recognize that, but like meta progressions do kind of get rid of any and all survival pressure. That if you get enough meta progression, eventually the game is just easy, and there's nothing that will change that. And that always is a little tragic, because I like the idea of meta progression. I love the idea of, you know, farming for upgrades. I love the incremental nature of it, but it instantly makes the game less viable on the long term. I think I might die here. Yeah, it's fine. It makes it less replayable on the long term just because after a certain point you become so strong that you can just cut through anything without even having to think about your build. I'm thinking about like kind of what happens over the course of... Okay, half point of damage per level of water or toxic techniques, which has a lot of potential. Maybe. Let's see where it is and what it is. Do I even have that much money to invest? Not really. Where is it? That's tsunami damage. Oh, dang. He's got a lot of dash upgrades. Dash damage area, dash distance, dash cooldown. I might have to try Platypet in a dash build. Oh, here it is. So... Oh, wow. Okay, so this is actually really good. Because that's 2% per... Actually, no. Is that really good? 2% per level of toxic or water abilities. Each goes up to 5. That's like a 40% damage boost. That is good. It's just not as good as I thought it was going to be. If there's no level cap on abilities, that would be amazing. You could do all sorts of stuff, but that would be busted. I don't know. I think this has got a lot to love. I think it mostly boils down to it needs another mid-run layered progression system for variance sake. Overclocks or the chips or something. And then I think it'll be exactly where it needs to be in terms of standing out as a unique product. As it stands, the only reason why I'm going to feel too keen on playing TemTem Swarm over, say, most other Bullet Heavens is mostly the fact that it's got multiplayer and it's got cute TemTems. Both are great selling points and I think are going to be responsible for TemTem Swarm doing quite well. But it's one of those where I'd love to see things where if you can completely, like, cut out the fact that this is a cute monster collection-y game, and the multiplayer, it's a fairly maybe overly traditional Bullet Heaven. And so if it could become non-traditional and special in its own way as a Bullet Heaven, that would instantly make it so much more exciting, in my opinion, and elevate all the other elements too. It's got a solid foundation, it just needs more on top of that. And I'm hoping it gets there. But for now, at least, I might as well mention that the Swarm playtest is going on right now. If you have access to it, you can pick it up and play it yourselves. But if you do not have access, feel free to follow the link in the description below and add it to your wish list, as you'll be notified the moment a public demo becomes available or when the game comes out. Or you can even join the TemTem Discord and potentially be informed beforehand when the next playtest is going to be happening, so that you can sign up and hopefully participate as well. But with all that said, if you like this video in any way, shape, or form, leave me a like, it helps more than you know. And if you want to see more rad new games every single day, then hit subscribe because I got tons to check out and show off. But for now, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.